Harinam Sankirtan Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Sri Radha Gopinath Ki Sri Goranga Ki Sri Jagannath Subhadra Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Translation system is in progress. Yeah. So, while we're organizing the translation, what did we do yesterday in our session?
We did active feeling.
Oh,
Playing.
active. Okay, it's in the part. What else? What else? Yes, we did active. We talked about the difference. Active, passive, hearing. What did we show here on the screen? Not that.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
We showed
Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam.
different effects of like cultural context, this different context of like filters through which we hear interpretation of perception and we
Okay. Yeah. I don't think we talked about filters specifically. Yeah, we might think in terms of filters. That sounds a little negative, but it's also there. That's true. Yeah. What was on the bottom part up below the Bhagavatam?
Puranas,
Puranas,
Vedic literature,
Vedic literature.
Pancharatra,
Yeah. Pancharatra, Itihasa.
Brahmanas,
Yes, Brahmanas, Upanishads,
Aranyakas.
Yeah, we didn't mention the Aranyakas, but of course, Avaduttarai had to mention the Aranyakas. And why were those there? Why? What does that have to do with the Bhagavatam? I don't know. Anyone? Yes.
Bhagavatam is crown jewel of Vedic literature. And it's
Bhagavatam is the crown jewel of Vedic literature.
and it's so obviously connected with all other Vedic knowledge.
There's some connection there, right? Must be. If we think in terms of a tree with roots and a trunk and branches and leaves and fruit, then it's kind of all connected, isn't it?
Bhagavatam refers to fruit. Directly or indirectly, it refers to other Vedic.
Yes, okay, good. And while we're on that topic, yeah, I mentioned day before yesterday, we wanted to do some overviewing of Fifth Canto. But before we do that, some overviewing of the Bhagavatam. And this can be done in so many ways. I'm just going to give little points to the first 5 cantos. And it goes like this. Canto 1 and Mahabharata. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that especially Canto 1, you can read as a kind of sequel to the Mahabharata. What is this? What is sequel? Srpski predanski.
Nastavak.
Nastavak.
Nastavak. No.
Nastavak. Nastavak. Yeah, first canto is a Nastavak. And in this regard, in a sense, a lot of what we read in, especially the first canto, assumes that you are familiar with the Mahabharata, more or less. There's a kind of assumption there. Specifically, Chapter 8, what is the special feature of Chapter 8 of the first canto?
Prayers.
Prayers of Queen Kunti. And who is she offering them to? To Lord Krishna. And when is she offering them to Lord Krishna?
On the departure of Krishna.
Before Krishna is leaving to go back home, back to Dwaraka. Which means she's offering prayers after the battle of Kurukshetra. So that's a context in which she is glorifying Krishna, and several of her prayers allude to, they point toward the whole story of Mahabharata, especially how she and her family members were harassed, right, by the Kauravas. So I think it's very helpful to, when you're reading Canto 1 Bhagavatam, to keep in mind there's a connection. And there's a connection and there's something more. Huh? Yeah, no. of course, yes, chapter 9, Bhishma, the death of Bhishma, and before that, his prayers and his teachings, which in the Mahabharata comprise the Shanti Parvan, which is the 12th, and I forget the name of the 13th Parvan. These are very, very extensive, hundreds of chapters long. He's giving instructions. It all gets summarized in about 2 or 3 verses in the Bhagavatam. It just says, then Vishnu Dev instructed on all things to do with Varnashram and so on, like that. So that's very extensive in the Mahabharata. But the point I want to make is the Bhagavatam is a kind of commentary on the Mahabharata. What do commentaries do? We'll get to that soon, but generally, we can say in this case, the Bhagavatam is highlighting what in the Mahabharata is not so obvious or not so clear. And in fact, the chapters 4, chapters 4, 5, and 6 are elaborating on that point, that Mahabharata, Vyasa kind of misses the point. Narada is confirming what Vyasa suspects about himself, that he has missed the point, namely glorification, description of the Supreme Personality. God, he confirms that. And it's a commentary in the sense that it brings out, it highlights, it emphasizes that Kunti Devi and Bhishma are devotees of Krishna. It's there in the Mahabharata, but it's very much the focus, isn't it, in the Bhagavatam. We could say that about the Bhagavatam as a whole, is it's taking a lot of different sources, Vedic sources, and it's drawing out, it's highlighting what's the real point behind it. The real point is devotion to the Supreme Lord. And this is taken up in Canto 2. Again, we're talking now about connection. Bhagavatam is relating with the Vedic literature. In Canto 2, Chapter 6, there are verses which echo some verses in the Rig Veda, specifically in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, hymn number 90, which is famously known as the Purusha Sutta. A sutta, su-ukta, means something well said. And so the Purusha Sutta is a well said hymn praising the Purusha who is sacrificing himself to create the world. It's a very interesting 16 verses are the principal verses. And some of those verses are echoed in especially chapter 6, I think 1 and 2, and chapter 5. And it doesn't come out and say, this is, now we're talking about the Purusha Sutta hymn of the Rig Veda. But someone who is knowing, knowing, especially Purusha Sutta, will recognize. Now this, there's a little side note to this point, which I might have mentioned yesterday, but I didn't. Is because I was making kind of a distinction between Pancharatra and the Bhagavatam, which is rightly distinguished. But within the Bhagavatam, there are allusions to Pancharatra. And how do we know that? Well, one way we know is that in Pancharatra there is, if I'm not mistaken, it must be. If it's not there, it should be there. I had a teacher when I was in primary school. No, it was high school. History teacher. He would say, such and such happened in such and such year, something in American history. And then he would say, well, if it didn't happen in that year, it should have happened. So, if it's not mentioned in Pancharatra, it should be that in the performance of Archana, Puja, the procedure, there is a practice where you chant the 16 verses, one after another, of the Purusha Sutta, each one with one of 16 upacharas, or items, which you offer to the Lord. So that's one little hint of a connection, but the bigger hint of the connection of Pancharatra and Bhagavatam is so many times Narada Muni appears in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada sometimes refers to Pancharatra as Narada Pancharatra. And some people mistake that, understanding that there is a particular text called Narada Pancharatra. Yes, there is. It's a later text, but it's not what Prabhupada is referring to. He's speaking about Pancharatra, all of the Pancharatra literature, where Narada is typically the speaker. Narada appears in the Bhagavatam many times, and he appears already in chapter 4, or if he doesn't, he should have appeared. Chapter 4 or 5, when he meets with Vyasa. And he appears so many more times in the Bhagavatam, especially in Canto 7. It's Narada who speaks with Yudhishthira. And this, by the way, is another connection with the Mahabharata. Because in what context is Yudhishthira asking Narada a question? Anyone thought? Okay. The context is that Yudhishthira Maharaj is performing a Rajasuya sacrifice. That's described in the Mahabharata. He does this before, long before, or sometime before the war. And that becomes the cause of the war, kind of indirectly. And what happens in the Rajasuya of Yudhishthira? Shishupal. Shishupal just cannot control his tongue. He has to insult Krishna in public. Because why? Because Krishna has been elected as the first person to receive the argya which is one of the 16 items of puja. Arghya is, it's usually in the form of liquid preparation, which is offered as an it's a recognition of the honorific character of this person. So Krishna is elected, and Shishupal is very upset about that, and he lets everyone know, and not just with one insult, but with how many? 100 insults. I always like to think that maybe not Krishna, but maybe one of his servants had a quicker countdown because he had promised that he would not harm, would not kill Shishupal so long, even if he offers 100 insults. But he offers apparently 101, or it was 99 to 1. In any case, it was one too many. And that one too many meant off with his head. It was a very clean cut that Krishna arranged in such a way that Shishupal's head fell in the direction away from the Yajna-shala so that there would be no blood in the Yajna-shala to contaminate. If a drop of blood would enter, they'd have to completely start over. They'd have to purify the place and build a new Yajna-shala. That can be a major action. So Krishna was very thoughtful. Zing, he took off his head, so it rolled outwards. It rolled outwards, but there was something in Shishupal's body that went in the direction of Krishna and entered Krishna's body. What was that? His soul. When Yudhishthira saw this, he went, "Oh my God." No, he didn't say that. He should have said it. So what is this? This babysitter. Shishnu means baby and Pala means protector. So he was, I don't know, babysitter. But this terrible person, how is it with his soul, his Atma enters into Krishna? So he asks that of Narada. That is mentioned in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. So there's another connection. There's Narada, Mahabharata, Yudhishthira. In the 3rd canto, I'm sure there are other connections here, but I'll just point to maybe the most obvious in some respects. Here we turn to two sorts of Vedic tradition of philosophy. One is Sankhya and the other is Yoga. And we have, starting with, chapter 21 maybe, Kapila Deva, Kapiri, and then he will give teachings to his mother, Deva Huti, for several chapters. And what is his teaching? His teaching is Samkhya and Yoga and Sankhya Yoga, but with a difference. And what's the difference? It's all about bhakti. It's bhakti yoga, and the whole point is glorification of the Supreme Lord. Now, Sankhya and Yoga are what's kind of called classical darshanas, philosophical. Darshan means view, and so it can mean a perspective. There's, by the 14th century, the Common Era, it's standardized as six darshanas, although there were actually so many more. And this Sankhya and Yoga are found sprinkled here and there in other Vedic literature. It's there in the Mahabharata. It's kind of comes out in some of the Upanishads. It might be hinted in the Veda, the Rig Veda. Its scholars consider it the oldest, most probably, they'd like to say probably, most probably the oldest of the, what you can call systematic philosophical traditions of India. Similarly, yoga, it kind of sprouts and emerges, and the word is used. The word yoga is used already in the Rig Veda. But in the Rig Veda, what does it mean? Generally, it means rigging up a horse to a chariot. That's called yoga. Well, that's interesting because the word yoke in English is, every linguist knows, it's a cognate of the Sanskrit word yoga. Anyway, there's a footnote to this. Yoga Kshema. Kshema, we have Yoga Kshema Raham Yaham in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives facility and he maintains what we have. Well, in the Rig Veda, Yoga Kshema means going out to war and coming back and settling. War and peace is Yoga Kshema. In any case, yoga starts to come, and then in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto especially, and of course, very much again in the 11th canto, in fact, even you can say more so, is much discussion on yoga. 4th canto, well, one aspect we might think of is mimamsa, and this is also one of the classical systematic darshanas. What is mimamsa? Literally, mimamsa, the word can mean something like deliberation. How would you say deliberation?
Проміщення, розміщення. Проміщення.
Not deliver, deliberation. Deliberation is a careful thinking through things.
Є проміщення.
Okay. Yeah. How is that in the 4th canto? There's not so much careful deliberation, is there? Well, Mimamsa is very much about hermeneutics. Sorry for using the word again, already on the same day. It's about hermeneutics of the Veda, how to understand what the Veda means. Within the Vedic tradition, it is called Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa, especially, and then Uttara Mimamsa is Vedanta. But the Purva Mimamsa, you could say the basic point of Mimamsa is to affirm one simple idea that the Vedic literature is telling us to perform sacrifice. It is Dharma. Atato Dharma Jigyasa is the beginning of the Mimamsa Sutras, and that's the only sutra I know about Mimamsa Sutra. But Atato, now is the time to consider Dharma. And what is Dharma? It's something which you and I and none of us will ever in a zillion years be able to work out by ourselves. We need revelation. And what is that revelation? That is Veda. And so we need to understand what it's saying. When it talks about a copper pillar, what is that about? A lot of things are difficult, so Mimamsa elaborates on ways of interpreting. Daksha didn't seem to have a very good idea on how to interpret Veda, because when Lord Shiva came into the sacrificial arena, Daksha was following Veda. He was going to perform sacrifice. Prachina Barhisha, in the final chapters, he's performing sacrifice. So he's following the order of Veda. He's doing Dharma. Yes? No. Why? Daksha is disrespecting a Vaishnava, Lord Shiva. Prachina Barhi, or Prachina Barhisha, is not doing Dharma. Why? Because he's killing animals one after another. He thinks he's doing Dharma, but he's gone too far, and now those animals are waiting for him when he dies. Yeah. So there's some allusion, I think, to Mimamsa in Canto 4. There's so much more. It's a quite big canto. Canto 5, and we'll come back, I guess, to overviewing Canto 5. But especially in chapters, 3, 4, 5, dealing, 3, 4, 5, 6, deal with Rishabdeva. So who is Rishabdeva for the people who identify themselves as Jains? Anyone know?
Something like a founder acharya.
Founder Acharya.
Founder Acharya. Oh, okay. Yeah, something like a founder Acharya. You might say that in some sense. They consider him to be the first of 24, what they call Tirthankaras. What's a Tirthankara? A Tirthankara is a liberated soul who has created a tirtha, a crossing place to cross over from conditioned life to liberated life. So they have a list, 24 Tirthankaras, and they go in a cycle of, I don't know how many zillion years, and then it starts over. Rishabdeva comes again, and then so many others. And in the Bhagavatam, we have the teachings of Rishabdeva. And what does he teach? Well, one thing he teaches that's a kind of key idea is human life is meant for tapasya. Well, that's an idea that Jains would have no trouble with. Nayam deho deha bhajan Niloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujanye tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shudyat yashmat brahmasokyam to anantam tapo divyam. I don't know if the Jains would use the word divya. This is tapo divyam. And Brahma Sokyam, I don't think they would use the word Brahma. It brings about the happiness of Brahman realization. An interesting thing which I learned by consulting, I confess, Wikipedia, is that Nabi, King Nabi, who is mentioned in the beginning of chapter 3 of Canto 5, in describing the appearance of Rishabdeva, Nabi and his wife Meru Devi are the parents of Rishabdev in the Bhagavatam, and also in the Jain literature. But here I found this to be a very fun detail, a fun fact. Are you ready for a fun fact? According to the Jain Adi Purana, see, they have kind of parallel Puranas. They have, I think they have a Jain Ramayana and a Jain Mahabharata and so many other literature, not in Sanskrit, but in Prakrit language, one of the Prakrits. In their Adi Purana, it says that Nabi, how tall was Nabi? King Nabi was 525 dhanushas. What's a dhanusha? A dhanusha is a longbow. What's a longbow? A longbow is what you shoot arrows with. And my guess is that a longbow is the height of the person who's shooting. So 525 longbows tall was King Nabi. Isn't that a fun fact? No?
Why so big?
Huh?
Why so big?
Yeah. I don't know why it doesn't. I have no idea. Big enough. Maybe in those days, kings were big.
What about
So that-
David?
What about Merodini? That's a good question. What about Merodini? Yeah. Let's hope she was similarly tall. And then how tall was Rishabh? So these are things which we can wonder. Okay. So Jainism is alluded to and almost explicitly condemned in a later, maybe I think should be chapter 6, when it said that a certain king tried to imitate Rishabdeva, and he is to be rejected, his imitation. So that's actually a kind of very strong indication that that's what the Bhagavatam is doing. Another way of seeing a connection with Jainism in the Fifth Canto is with the final several chapters, starting with chapter 16 through 26. There are descriptions of the universe. These are very similar, and then again, maybe not so similar, with cosmologies, cosmogonies to be found in Jain literature and in Buddhist literature. And Buddhism doesn't come so directly, practically at all in the Bhagavatam. Once or twice here it's touched on, but it seems like it's being avoided more than anything, except in the sort of way of countering the idea that there is no soul, anatma-bhada. This is a kind of cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, that while you are thinking that you are one continuous being, actually, Buddhists will say, that's precisely your problem. That's why you are suffering. And so they will say, there is no Atma. Krishna doesn't like that. Na chayate mriyate vakarachinna yamrupa bhagitavana puyam achonite shashvato yampurano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. There's no question of there being no soul. You exist now, you will exist in the future. All these kings exist now, they will exist in the future, they existed in the past. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati bhavaka. Nachanam, you cannot destroy, you cannot burn the soul. Chaitra yamadahya yamakledya shosheva. You can't cut it up. You can't soak it away. You can't make it disintegrate. So Krishna doesn't like that. Still, we have in the fifth canto these descriptions of the universe. But what's in the center of those descriptions? It always comes back. What do the devotees in Hari Varsha and Kimpurisha Varsha and all these different Varshas, what do?
Worship Krishna.
They worship the Lord. They're always, yesterday, the end of our session was the first of several prayers by Prahlad Maharaj in, I think it's Hari Varsha, where he's offering prayers to Nrsimhadev. We may remember Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Jaste Jaste Ahiravirva Vajanaka Vajadamshra Karmachayan Randhaya Randhaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuvisha Om Shram. We had some nice little performances of that prayer. Do we have some other performances? Some of you were preparing, we didn't have time, that you would like Mataji Parameshwari? Huh?
I don't care.
Anyone? You had, you wanted to prepare, you wanted to show us? Now you're all being very shy.
Yeah. Do.
A little bit, but not so
Very good. Let's see. Okay. Now everyone's being. Now you're being more shy than you were yesterday.
But we can have some minutes to prepare, to finish.
To finish preparing.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. But before we do that, I want to explain one thing about commentaries, okay? Because I've talked about commentary also this morning. We heard something from one commentary from, who was it, Vijaya Vajjatirtha, I think. And this brings us now back to this kind of image I had yesterday. Bhagavatam in the middle, Vedas below, and what did we have above? Commentaries. Yeah. Jiva Goswami is one of the commentators. His main commentary is the Shat Sandarbhas. Shat means six, and Sandarbha means treatise, you can say. And he elaborates, he gives credit to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He says, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he started something, and I am completing it. So I believe it's in his verse, the Tattva Sandarbha, in which he's establishing that the Bhagavatam is our final word. It's the final authority. Why? He gives so many reasons. That's what the Tattva Sandarbha is about. And there, he says, Vedam Puranam Kavyam Cha, Prabhur Mitra Priyeva Cha, Bodhayantiti Hi Prabhu's Trivrit Bhagavatam Punaha. He says, the Vedas, they teach us. How do they teach us? They teach us like a Prabhu, like a master, like standing above us and maybe teaching like this, or like the teacher in the front of the classroom with the chalkboard. Scratch, scratch, scratch. That's Veda. Purana also teaches. How does it teach? It teaches like a friend. Friends sometimes teach us lessons, give us good advice, help us so many ways. Can be very nice. Kavya. What is Kavya? Kavya is poetry. It's written by Kavis, of whom Lord Brahma is the Adi Kavi. Adi Kavaye. So, also teaches us. How does it teach?
Lower.
Like lover. A lover can also teach. Prabhu, Mitra, Priya, like a Priya, like a beloved. Bodhayanti, Iti, all of them can teach, can awaken us. Bodhayanti, Iti, Prabhu. Trivrit Bhagavata Puna. All of these, all these three different ways or styles of teaching we can find in the Bhagavatam. So what Jiva Goswami is saying is the Bhagavatam has everything. It's all there. It's all in the Bhagavatam. But he gives us the Shatsandarbhas to explain how and why that's the case. And he gives very systematically developing basic ideas. The Bhagavad Sandarbha, what is, there is a Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, and what does that mean? And then the Paramatma Sandarbha, what is Paramatma? Who is Paramatma? How does he function? How does he relate with Atma? And then very extensively, Bhakti Sandarbha. So, if there's Bhagavan and there's Paramatma, and obviously there's also Brahman, what to do? Practice Bhakti. What does that mean? This is what Bhakti is. And he elaborates. And then Krishna Sandarbha. Bhagavan, we talk about generally, but who is Bhagavan? Who is actually Bhagavan? Ete Chamsa Kala Punsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So he elaborates, Krishna is actually Krishna's true Bhagavan Swayam. He is Bhagavan himself, Bhagavan Swayam, and so on. And then Kriti Sandarbha, the Sandarbha of love. What is all of this bhakti about? What is it for? What are we aiming for? It's all about love. It's not about jnana. It's not what Shankaracharya thinks. It's not what Shankaracharya's followers know. It's about priti, prema. Now there are commentaries other than from Jiva Goswami on the Bhagavad, some list, it is mentioned there's some 81 Sanskrit commentaries on the Bhagavad. I mentioned in this one edition which Prabhupada used, there are 25. Most of the Bhagavatam, it's only 6 or 7 commentaries, but then you come to the 10th canto, and suddenly everybody's there, they want to say something. But what do commentaries exactly do? This I want to share with you, and I just find it's a little bit of an interesting detail, but I'm mentioning because I think it will also help appreciate Srila Prabhupada's commentary. So the first thing that a commentary will do, Sanskrit commentary, is called pada cheda. Pada cheda. Cheda means cutting, splitting, and pada means words. So the nature of the way Sanskrit is, it's all kind of strung together in a tight weave and by rules which are called sandhi rules. And the sandhi means joining, you can say. These are very specific rules of how words come together. I won't give you a grammar lesson. They do that, and the result is there can be confusion about where do we divide the word. And if we divide it, can we divide it more than one way? And if we do, does it have different meanings? Yes, it can. So this can be confusing. So one thing the commentaries do is say, take it like this. Here is this word, and here is this word, and now you know how it's divided. They won't always do this, but sometimes, especially if something may be unclear, they'll do this. The second thing commentaries will often do is give word meanings. And here we might be disappointed because they will give word meanings from Sanskrit to Sanskrit. And we want to say maybe, oh, that doesn't help me. I need something in Serbian, I need something, in German or whatever. But they're giving their comments, their meanings in other Sanskrit words. So sometimes they'll expand out from one word in the verse to 2 or 3 or 4 words to explain the meaning. This is called padartoti. And padartoti, this could be an example for padacheda. What is padartoti? Well, it's pada plus artha plus ukti. And by sandhi rule, it becomes padartoti. Because they like to save syllables and they like to save space. A third function of the commentary is called vigraha. Now, we may know this word from Archa Vigraha, but vigraha in this context means clarifying grammar. Some languages, including, I think, all of your languages, are languages with a certain amount of distinctions of grammar according to prefixes and suffixes. We say that this is an inflected language. Inflected. You can take one word and you can change the end here or change the beginning, usually an ending, and it'll work in order to maybe tell something of the past or of the future or of the present, right? You have this in the sermon, so on. So that's also very much in Sanskrit. And sometimes it might not be entirely clear, and therefore the commentators will clarify the Sanskrit. So far it's just words and meanings of words and grammar of words, but now it gets a little more complex. There's Vakya Yojana. Vakya Yojana. this is clarifying the meaning of sentences. In a verse, this can be identifying what is the sentence, because the verse in Sanskrit, they'll have one word at the end, which you and I might think should be at the beginning. The word order is generally not so important in Sanskrit. In English, it can be very important. You can get in trouble if you get the word order wrong. I can't think of an example. Vakya Yojana. Yojana comes from yoga, which comes from yuj, which comes to connect. So, and Vakya means speech, so it's the connecting of the words. How are these words meant to be connected to each other? Yojana means yoke, and so it's also used as a measure. Typically, we say 8 miles or whatever, 12 kilometers, something like that. But it literally means a yoking. So how far can an ox walk with a cart in one day? That's a yojana. And finally, there's akshepa samadhana. What is that? This is answering objections to the statement in question. So there may be some issue and that is being discussed, and the commentators want to make sure that there's not a misunderstanding. Let me go back though to Bhakti Yojana. Srila Prabhupada does this very often within his translation. What I mean is that he stretches out. He's not giving a literal translation of the Sanskrit necessarily. He's sometimes stretching with it. My favorite example of this, he even puts some purport into it, is, and I can't remember the Sanskrit now, but it's when Prahlad Maharaj advises his father, O best of the demons, what did I learn today? I learned the best thing is that you go to the forest and renounce grihastha life. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, not in the purport, in the verse, he says, go to Vrindavan. Because Prabhupada also said about his purports, he said, I am giving my ecstasies. So we might want to say that's a sixth principle for a commentator to share their ecstasy. But Prabhupada in that verse, not in the purport, he says, go to the forest, which means go to Vrindavan. Many times what Prabhupada is doing is drawing from another commentary. Sridhar Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur especially. And he's then tying that into his commentary. People criticize, they say, what is this translation that's not in the Sanskrit? No, it's in the commentary, which is explaining the Sanskrit. Or sometimes Prabhupada is giving his own feel of what is the commentary. What is the verse? The Sanskrit. Oh my God, it's already that time. Yes, now what I think we want to do, we've gotten to our summary of the Fifth Canto. I hope this was a little bit interesting for you. You're all so patient and quiet. I don't know if you're just being polite or what. But I think sometimes it's nice to get a little bit, a little wider picture of what our tradition is about. But I think it's time to have some fun. What do you think?
Yes.
So those of you who would like to present something which you started working on yesterday, let's continue to prepare that. For those of you who were not here yesterday, we asked the devotees to dramatize one verse, the verse which we chanted together a few minutes ago, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And we had two very, very dramatic performances, but we had at least 5 different groups who were working on this. So if you want to work on that, that's great. If not, or if you've already performed, here's what we want you to do. Hold on to your hand. Discuss with each other in your groups of 2 or 3, some of you are 4, how you would explain to, and you can choose, either high school students or to your Aunt Sylvia, or whatever your aunt's name is, or to the city librarian who has just opened the Fifth Canto to chapter 26, or to some Martians who just happen to have arrived and they understand your language. Explain to them about the hellish planets in chapter 26 of Canto 5, Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. How would you go about explaining or telling about this? I'm getting that same empty stare that I got yesterday when I suggested. But what we all found yesterday was that once you got a little bit started, you were really rolling. So, the time. So we have 10 minutes to discuss.
Ok, ko će prvi? Imate neku ideju? Koga ćemo, Marsovce? A, ok, ovo je ono generalno kako nije pojenta.
A da ga ne odbije.
All right, are we ready? We're going to first have a performance of from our yesterday exercise. Yeah, do you need microphones? Yes, microphones are coming.
Ovo je bilo za mene. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Dobro, ja ću na srpsku, da nema bosanskih. Da me cijel sveti. Imamo jednu predstavu. Hare Krishna. I predstava je da čovjek onako malo oživčanije u nekim srednjim godinama.
Samo malo. Ima prevod za Gurudeva.
I ide psihologu. Ide u ambulantu, to je u ordinaciju psihologu i...
Samo čas da vidimo da li još nekomu treba prevod ovdje kod Uruga. Somebody else maybe need translation or local language. Yeah, please, you go there and you will listen.
Možemo isto staviti uho ko što smo imali onda.
A on će da prevodi Uruga i na engleski. Povećala se grupa, sad to će da ga čuju. We have non-Serbian speakers and now we have just to say how they can all catch Urugai's translation. We can continue this.
Something doesn't feel right.
Ženama uglavnom šalju psihologu.
No, his wife.
Sa mnom je sve znači potpuno super.
He's perfectly all right.
To je dokaz zašto te šalje.
Ok, uglavnom sve sad malo.
Evo kakav lijepi dan, nema posla danas, super. Dring, dring, dring. Alo, dobar dan. Ovdje je ordinacija psihoterapeuta Narhasimha. Kako vam mogu pomoći? Samo malo. Šta je bilo? Vaš muž znači, ja? Teški slučaj. Mora razumjeti. Čekaj, samo malo da imam temu. Prosto, samo malo. Ovo je teški slučaj. Poplakao, tapanja. Može 18. augusta ove godine. Dobro, samo malo. Ja ne znam kako je živjeti sa demonom. Pa daj, molim. Razumijem. Ajde, znaš šta, doći ti odmah sa njim. Znaš šta, čekaj samo malo da ti objasnim. Znači, profesor Narhasimha nije tu, ali njegov asistent Krishna-ksetra.
Šta si mene asistent? Pa nisam ja sad tamo iz doktora.
Idemo mi, treba ti pomoć. Ne mogu ja više tako. Demonijom. Idemo odmah. Sram te bilo, možete nekog više. Ajko mila, čime sam to služila. Pričam nešto u karmi, ja nemam lošu karmu. Ne, nešto. Ajmo, idemo.
O čemu je problem?
Doktore, ja ne znam, doktore, pa ovaj svijet ovo sve poludno, ja ne znam šta je.
Moraš mu pomoći, on je normalan. On se čita ga, ne da mi pare. Kažete da se nije...
Lezite i vi. Samo da podršku date.
Njemu treba pomoći. Majko, mila. Bože, sačuvaj.
Doktore, ja ono cijeli život radim, Niti me ko sluša, niti me ko doživljava.
Pa to je istina, ja sam takva radi,
Pa
sunčano mraka,
Pa i slučajevi su pomožili, pa ja ne nazvajamo, pa direktni svetski rat.
Sad
Pa
rekao
kako
da
je
šutiš,
rješenje?
ja ću da pričam.
Pa ti nemaš pojma i nema krajeva.
Ti si pravo, nije doktor, vidiš što
So the solution to all psychological did we have any other group from the mantra chanting? Yes? Okay.
I think that's, I don't know, they are separate skills.
Da nas shvatite, ovdje je sto sa rakijom, sa čašicama. I upravo, I upravo sam ispekla pile onako jako dobro. Baš razmišljam. Sama tu. Ajde neka pokušit ću jednu, pa ću smisliti šta ću. Zdravo te ja vidim moja. Stigla sreća, pa moja, pa baš tu pravi čestigla. Pogledaj šta sve ima. Ima cigara, ima pivec, on ispekla velika. Ajde doći s tebe, ne, doći, znaš kako je sve fino, nemaš pojma. Ako sam kupila najnovije cigare, ne znam odavde.
Ja sam ti pričala već.
Šta?
Pa to ne valja ništa.
Kako ne valja? Znaš kako ja se
Pa to ne valja to.
Ajde, dođi.
Pa ja sam ti pokazala knjigu.
Dođi da pesmeš
Čekala, ne si dobila slike.
Popustit ćeš to, pa
Ne, hvala. To u prošlom životu da, ali sad se
Kako možeš u to uopće da veruješ? Ajde, lijepo da uživamo, mislim, ovo je stvarno, život je stvoren za užitak, sad ne.
Ne. Pa ti si nekad bila rokerka. Pa sjećaš one pesme?
To je prošlo.
Si. Kako ne znaš? Sad ćemo da ti otpevamo refren.
Ajde, baš da vidim.
Ajde. You are on the highway to hell. Highway to hell. Highway to hell. You are
Ti to nekom drugom.
Ja sad razumeš?
Evo, i to nekom drugom dete.
Ne. Nisi povolila, ja mislim da sad shvatim.
Ajde, možda ćete mi još koji put otpevati.
Možeš jedno? You are on the highway to hell. On the highway to hell. Highway to hell. So please chant and be happy.
Okay.
No meat, no fish, no rakija, šljivovica, no Malboro. It's for your good.
Okay. Now, zašto je?
I bring prasadam.
Okay.
Yes.
No, you should only chant this mantra which you like so much. This chant.
Yes. And don't.
How do you chant it? Kreni do
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. And please don't listen ACDC. Please don't listen ACDC anymore, okay?
ne znam ni ko su.
On the highway to Hare Krishna. Yeah, I didn't hear the Om Namo Bhagavate mantra.
It's lost in
It was very
translation.
subtle.
It's commentary on
Yeah, it was commentary. Actually, our time is already up for today. What I suggest is keep thinking about discussing these, what was our second project. We have someone who is, I think Nayana, and you're going to do something about explaining hellish planets to some aliens, some Martians. Others have chosen Martians or your aunt or what was it, high school students or something else. I see you all speaking to each other right now, and I ask you to just approach is this one.
Yeah, they took the same approach for all the people more contemplated.
Okay. In any case, so we, I think, don't have a session tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow. And then on that day, we can have some presentation of how you're going to do this, plus a surprise. Plus,
That means that we should read the 27th chapter again. Now for the homework.
26th chapter.
26.
Yeah, that's the last. Yes, you're welcome to read that chapter. Yes, homework.
Yes, how
And then you can work
will we
out,
explain to someone?
unless you know what it is. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and thank you. We've had a very interesting time together. And if we had more time, we could do so much more. But have a wonderful rest of the day. Srila Prabhupada ki. Lord, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.